Inner peace. Focus. Balance. You can learn the secrets of Okinawan karate, true karate, by joining the Miyagi-Do team. Because at Miyagi-Do, it's not about the money. It's about the karate.
Oh my God, I identify so much with everybody in this show.
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show that it and its predecessor for 8 years have been about watching stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt, and on this very special episode of Cordkillers, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to dip into the past 8 years of cord cutting, Brian.
Yep, it's called a bottle episode, and it's what you do when it's only been 48 hours since the last episode. You figure out something that's not time-related, and you make it all about that.
Also known as a clip show.
Yeah?
Yeah, where you just take pieces of the past and you present them out of order in a new form.
I do want to give... okay, before we begin...
We're not actually doing a clip show, though.
Interesting question. That Cobra Kai thing... is it crawling up their own butts for a YouTube original to involve the marketing and social media promotion and the questions about paid entertainment versus premium free entertainment or whatever, like to integrate that as a plot point? Because as a creator, now keep in mind, you and I, our daily lives involve creating for YouTube or whatever. So like just that opening moment where Danielson is talking about,
it's not about the money.
Unlike the other guys, we're free.
It's about the branded opportunities.
Exactly. And then meanwhile, you're looking at Johnny and you're like, I've already identified him. Like, he has to keep the lights on. Of course he has to charge. What are you doing? You're driving out with your freemium entertainment. Is that crawling up their own butt, or is it awesome?
I couldn't tell through all the tears that I cried when I saw Mr. Miyagi's picture being taken off the wall.
That's not
later
true.
in the trailer.
That's
no. I honestly, when I watched this trailer, I kept thinking like, oh, this is all the stuff I expected to see them referred to in season one.
Well, but season one, and again, highly recommended. I think we're all on the same page. Definitely watch Cobra Kai. I think they needed us to get... Season one is all dedicated to the unlikely character arc of Johnny being our hero. And I'm on board for it. So now we get the much more interesting thing of like, because everything we saw before of Johnny didn't look like he was the hero.
Right.
So now we have balance. And now because we have balance, ironically, one of the themes in the ad, now we get to have the interesting discussion of like, is it possible both sides can be right? Like Danielson can be right that this is something that should be free, and it's about,
Now I understand. You have to sweep the leg. You have no other choice.
Well, but on the flip side, listen to our episodes on Spoilerin Time where we talk about Cobra Kai,
right.
and go watch it. It's fantastic.
Excellent. So we are going to go back and take a little long view perspective of the past 8 years of cord cutting news, because there are some interesting things back in 2011 that I think will shed light on how we think about stuff now, and how maybe not just gut reacting to everything will be the most accurate, even if it is the most fun. But before we get to that, let's start with the front lines.
Frontlines!
Roku devices are now compatible with Amazon's Assistant-enabled devices through a new Roku skill. So devices including the Amazon Echo, Echo Show, Echo Dot, Spot, and Plus can now pause a show when you talk to them. Launch a streaming channel. You can do that too. Search for entertainment through various commands. Roku TV users can also turn on the TV, change the volume, mute the TV, switch inputs, and change channels if there's an over-the-air antenna connected by just saying, hey, you turn on Roku, where you equals the name of the Amazon Echo device, or turn up the volume on Roku. So you can connect your Roku through a skill to an Echo, or if you've got a Roku TV, you now have some direct connection.
I think I just had like a moment. Remember when it was at first novel that the over-the-top services were getting Emmy nominations and Oscar nominations, and then at some point it would be more weird if they didn't have those.
Sure.
I feel like we're getting there in terms
With
of
the
hardware
voice.
with all of the voice assistants, where it's like the mere fact, like as you're reading it, I'm like, you mean they didn't already? No, I guess that makes sense. Okay, today's the day.
Yeah. Now it's here. So there you go. Amazon, Roku, friends.
Yeah, there was. I think the big moment for me was I asked one of the digital assistants. I said, "Tell me a spooky story," having no idea whether or not that was a pre-programmed thing. Credible little spooky story I got. It was adorable.
Very nice.
Game of Thrones final season trailer. be prepared for death.
Yes.
To the surprise of exactly nobody, or people who have never seen Game of Thrones.
One of the things when I was going back and looking through old frame rate lineups for later in the show that was really entertained me were the early episodes. We were all excited about the season 2 Game of Thrones trailer.
As well, we should have been.
It was only one season of Game of Thrones.
I'm still excited about it. That's how great it was.
And this trailer is showing us almost nothing. It's the only thing it would spoil is if you haven't watched the show. Like, characters you knew were alive at the end of last season are
still alive,
standing there doing things.
Are we going to participate in the Game of Thrones Deadpool? Are we going to play the death pool thing?
I'd be up for that. Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll layer that on top.
Because the one thing I did glean from this is it does look like Jaime joins the fight with the good guys. He's on a boat at one point.
Yeah.
It's an Ironborn boat.
Yeah.
Which I guess the Ironborn are now good guys.
I mean, it's very clear. It's very clear that it's going to be all of. I mean, to me, if I was going to speculate, I would imagine that the story's going to end up with all humans versus the undead,
except Cersei.
Yeah. Who very last minute maybe even has a little minor redemption.
Well, it looks like she's in
something.
Dragonstone at one point.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling she goes, ha ha ha, you suckers all fighting the zombies. I'm going to take Dragonstone. And then there's no resistance and no one there. And maybe that's the point where she's like, that was less satisfying than I expected. AT&T's new television boss and the new head of HBO, Bob Greenblatt, told NBC News, Netflix doesn't have a brand. It's just a place you go to get anything. It's like Encyclopedia Britannica.
Okay.
He didn't say it like that, but those were the words he used.
Very poorly worded, but I do think my point last episode still stands. HBO is just 3 letters. It happens to mean something for the 30 to 40 year period that we grew up.
Sure.
It will definitely mean something different for the next 30 to 40 years.
Probably.
It is up to them. They're the ones who bought it. They get to decide if they want to mow down that forest, if they want to over-harvest that land and destroy it, or if they want to cultivate a brand that.
But this is
like brands are not people. Don't feel bad.
But
if
he's
a brand
tearing
goes
down
away.
Netflix for being Encyclopedia Britannica,
Okay,
and I know where he's trying to hit. They'll do anything. We're quality.
You're poking me, Tom. You're poking me.
Why am I poking you?
You're gonna give me real emotion. I'm trying to be real. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd because what I want to say is shut up. Don't ruin HBO for me. HBO is very special. Not necessarily the news was wonderful.
But I'm coming at Netflix. I'm coming at the Netflix side of this.
All right. Yeah.
Does that help?
No.
Okay.
No.
He added that Netflix has a great business model when you're trying to reach as many people on the planet as you can, and he wasn't being snotty when he said that.
That sounds like a business.
Yeah.
This only means that like he's doing everything wrong. That's the one thing HBO had is that it had a very strong brand, and you're going about destroying them.
Okay. How about this last one?
fine.
When asked
It's fine.
about the forthcoming streaming service that will add Turner Networks to HBO in a package, and the question of is that just going to fundamentally change HBO? He said, no, we're not saying let's undo HBO.
Did we talk about the tweet that I ran across where somebody said that this merger, this acquisition would be the death of HBO because no truly talented creative professional wants to work for the telephone company?
Oh, no. I don't remember if you said that on the show or not.
But that seems to ring true.
I don't know. I mean, nobody wanted to work for a Silicon Valley startup out of Hollywood either until they did because Netflix got real good at it.
You're talking about Apple TV. It's going to be great. It's going to be huge.
We'll save that for our next 10-year review when it finally launches.
Cable and satellite TV providers in the United States lost more than 3 million video subscribers, a new report from Leichtman Research Group said. By contrast, Leichtman's survey of the U.S. broadband market found that cable companies added 2.5 million internet subscribers in 2018, achieving a total of 64.3 million. It's interesting that these stories 8 years ago used to be reported as just cable numbers went up or went down.
Housing market is the problem. They'll go back up.
Now they are always reported in pairs. Cable numbers went down this much. Internet went up Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I'm really looking forward. I hope Leichtman Research does start adding in the streaming services, the Hulu Live, Sling TV, PlayStation View. I would like to see those numbers thrown in. They have them in here in regards to AT&T's DirecTV Now and Dish's Sling TV, only because they're showing like, well, they lost this many subscribers here, but they added them over here. But they don't have an overview of the whole market, and I would like to see that from them.
You know what I think we're ready for is an analog to what YouTube did years ago, where they didn't say you should or should not care about this thing. They simply pivoted and switched the default metric by which all things are judged from the number of views per video and switched to viewer minutes. Likewise, we need to give up this idea of subscribers and dollars or whatever, and we need to move to a viewer minutes thing. That's what everybody should be judged on.
I think there's value in the subscriber number, but I think you're right. There's much more indifferent and probably incredibly valuable insight to be had from the viewer minutes as well. Although a subscriber number means this person was willing to give their money for this month, and as those things bounce around, it will tell you which of these companies are picking up those eyeballs.
Yeah,
I would find that interesting.
Sure. And you are correct. Like monetary movement is different from attention movement, but
that attention movement's a really interesting one.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, folks. All right, we want your attention for
nope,
just
not true.
a couple of minutes.
Nope, we want your money. We're going to use your attention to translate it into money.
Yeah, no,
okay.
I want their attention on our Patreon for a couple of minutes, just long enough to sign up and give us their money.
All right, I'm going to give you a provisional pass. Explain how.
They go to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Yeah.
They say, I'd like to give these guys $1 an episode.
Do they have to say that?
They don't have to say anything. They just have to put one in the little thing. It's already there, actually.
Yeah, $1 per episode.
Yeah. They don't even have to add it.
You're saying they should
could change it to $5.
Do the right thing. Just
Change
do
it
the
to
right
$70.
thing. We're worth $1 an episode
Easily.
If you were here, you would give each of us 40 cents and 10 cents to Bryce, right? So let's do that.
Yeah.
Wait, that doesn't even add up to $1.
No.
We'll wait.
And you know what? And the last 10 cents you would pay for transactional fees.
Yeah, which is worth it because then we don't have to go out and be a bank. Someone else does that for us.
Yeah.
Because you know what I don't want to be?
Bank?
A bank. Exactly.
I don't want to. Never mind. I'm going to not say
have
anything.
the money that goes in a bank.
We're
and
good.
That's what Patreon does. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Please support us. All right. Let us go back. Not 5 years. 5 years ago in December, we launched the Patreon to support Cordkillers.
Yep.
As the new show Cordkillers began its beta episodes.
Right.
But 3 years before that,
We beta tested the beta.
yeah, with a show called Frame Rate.
Yep.
And so we've been covering this space for 8 years. I thought it would be fun, since we're in the same room together,
Yep.
to celebrate that time and look back at some of those stories from 2011 and just see how they feel now.
The only way this could be better is if there was some fundamental disagreement that we had at the beginning of the episode that's resolved by the time that we spend 30 minutes trapped in this room together.
What could that possibly be?
I don't know. I thought we always agreed on everything.
Nope.
Pretty sure we
don't
always
think we
agreed on
do.
everything. Think we
No.
agreed on everything.
I guess we'll have to find out.
Okay, wait, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you right now.
Yes, you are.
Because we always
have to.
agree.
Definitely start with
Shoot,
no,
yeah,
I'm not.
My memory core circuits just melt.
All right, let's go back to June 27th, 2011.
Okay.
That's
Man, what was going on?
That's 7.5 years ago.
I was probably strutting around thinking, my 30s are great.
And we were strutting around talking about a brand new service that had just launched for $50 a month in San Francisco.
I know this one. This is the movies in your home thing.
No.
Wait,
Nope.
Wait, what would be worth $50 a month?
Unlimited theater movies. That's right, Movie Pass.
Oh my God!
Brand new system.
So far ahead. We're so far ahead of the curve, Tom.
When Movie Pass came on the scene with their $10 a month and everybody suddenly covered it, remember we were both like, we've been covering this for a long time.
Sure.
Yeah.
We were totally that way.
Yeah. So Movie Pass was $50 when it launched in San Francisco. It was only in San Francisco too, and it immediately got kicked out of theaters.
So at that time, was it truly unlimited?
It was unlimited for all the theaters that it could get into, but Landmark, AMC, Camera, and Big Cinemas, which were all chains at the time, kicked them out. Stopped taking their money.
Which again, like I almost wonder if they had an opportunity back at that level because all they were doing is saying we're collecting $50 and then we are handing out dollars to whoever says I want to go see a movie. There might have been a constitutional take for them to say you can't do that. You see what it says on this dollar bill? This is legal tender for all debts, public and private. You don't get to decide which of these dollar bills you do and don't take.
I think what was happening is they were using movietickets.com to buy the tickets.
Oh.
And movietickets.com had deals with the theaters.
And then
the theaters
which gave
with
them
the movie
leverage to
tickets
say,
said,
hey, we're going to shut that down if you
don't do that anymore.
Hmm.
But yeah, pretty crazy.
That'd be like a bank that relies on a particular payment provider.
All right, let's talk about Netflix. First of all, cable TV was denying that Netflix was a problem, and I actually think they were right about that. I don't think Netflix was their problem. Netflix has never been the cable TV replacement. It's never been the thing. Back then, a lot of people were like, yep, everybody's going to cancel cable and watch Netflix. And I think we've learned, and I think we knew at the time, that Netflix was the thing you did in addition to your other television.
Correct.
And that you wouldn't cancel cable because you had Netflix. But wrap your head around this, because it's going to inform these other Netflix stories we're talking about. At the time, people thought, oh, Netflix will eventually just give you all your television. You will watch all your movies and TV shows. They'll have all the back catalog. They'll have all the movies. It'll be the one service to watch all your television, and that'll replace cable.
Right.
All right. Before Quikster, however, there was the big split with Stars.
Oh my God. Okay. Personal story. We were at CES, and for those who do not, God, we're such old fogies. This is how great it is. We remember noticing there was a deal, a sweetheart deal with Netflix and Stars. Stars had video on demand services, and for like pennies on the dollar, Stars said, you know what, we're a small middling cable provider. We have a bunch of VOD rights. We don't have an online output for any of that stuff. Yes, we'll do it. Here's
bigger
our whole
companies than them were handing over rights to Netflix at the time. So why wouldn't they?
I mean, think about it. It makes sense because they didn't have any distribution on their own. It got their logo in front of everybody.
No, online distribution of their own.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so they gave a sweetheart deal. And I remember at CES talking to, was it Stars or Netflix?
I think it was Stars. I remember you talking to Stars at a CES.
Okay, so talking to Stars like, hey man, how about that deal with Netflix? Your stuff is everywhere. Every time I go on Netflix, all the content starts with the word Stars. That's got to be great for you. He's like, probably would be if we made any money doing it. And I was like, oh, so you don't think you're gonna what would you do if you were us? And I was like, oh, I would probably create my own distribution channel.
Which, by the way, they've done.
Yeah, correct.
And it works great. But it's all around their TV shows, not the movies. Hilariously,
At that time, though, I remember thinking, like, if Stars leaves, that's the end of it for Netflix. Like, Netflix was winning because of that Stars back catalog.
Well, let's add on top of that the fact that Netflix has announced they're splitting their DVD and Netflix instant streaming services apart, thus raising your price if you want both of them to $16 a month.
Okay, for the record, even at $16 a month, I think it bears out that it was still worth it. I think today you could charge me $16 a month for a single online streaming account or whatever.
Netflix does.
Correct. At the time, I was a pretty big fan of this split. I thought it was the right decision for them to make. I thought the branding was bad. Quikster, dumb name.
Well, I got the Quikster.
Oh, sorry.
Well, there was the outrage about the split. Then there was the Stars thing. Then they announced, don't worry, it's going to be fine because we're renaming the DVD side Quikster.
I thought that was a fine idea as well at the time. And boy, I was wrong.
The conventional wisdom at the time was Netflix is about streaming movies. They're losing all their movies because the Stars deal is going away. Netflix built their business on DVDs. Yes, instant streaming is nice, but there's just not enough bandwidth for people to always be streaming Netflix. And those bandwidth caps will stop Netflix instant streaming from being good enough on its own. This is a horrible idea. It's a price rise. I'm canceling Netflix. And you know what? I think as Mr. Analyst that Amazon's probably just going to come in and buy Netflix and that'll be it. That's the only way that Netflix can save themselves now, Brian.
You're talking with a straight face, which makes me believe that there was a time we actually thought that's...
I don't think we ever said that, but that's what the articles, the conventional wisdom out there was saying. Netflix is done for. Amazon's going to buy them.
What was the drop? Bryce, here's a quick side quest for you. I remember making the joke that after the Quikster debacle, the stock price of Netflix dropped from like $300 a share. I forget how low. I want to say it got down to like 125
It
or
got
something.
down pretty low, yeah.
Like insane. At that moment, the idea of somebody swooping in and, buying them for pennies on the dollar, not the craziest thing.
Okay, so Bryce, if you would, if you could put up the rumor about Amazon potentially merging with Netflix, let's see a date on that story. That is September 22nd, 2011. Okay, then let's go to the story of Amazon announcing their new Kindle Fire tablet. Oh, that's September 28th, 2011. A significant offer that will put heat on Netflix, because this is when Prime Instant Video became the Amazon Prime streaming video that we have today, a competitor to Netflix.
This is also back when it was very obvious that Netflix was Coke, Hulu was Pepsi, and RC Cola was Amazon Prime. Since then, man, oh man, Amazon Prime is LaCroix, and and Netflix is still Coke or whatever, but Hulu has dropped behind precipitously, and Amazon has just really slayed it in the intervening 8 years.
Well, then in a month from announcing Quikster, Netflix killed Quikster and said, oh yeah, that was a dumb idea. We're killing off Quikster. We're not going to spin off the DVD service as a separate company. Obviously people maybe wanted to buy our streaming service like that Amazon story was rumored to say, but they didn't. They started their own service. So goodbye, Quikster. It's all still Netflix, but we're not getting rid of the plans. And a lot of people were jumping on them about that. They're like, okay, you changed the stupid name, but you're still charging us separately for DVDs and streaming. And that's just backward thinking.
Well, but also the right thing. I mean, it's weird because the number one comment on one of the oldest videos of Scam School, we had Netflix as a sponsor. Like, there are generations of teenagers now who are encountering these older Scam School videos, and they're all like, what the hell? Sending DVDs through the mail? What is this, Pony Express? What is even happening?
Yeah. Which, by the way, DVD.com, go there. It's still Netflix's DVD by mail. It still exists, but it feels so outdated now.
Yeah.
And we don't call it Netflix instant streaming. We just call it Netflix.
It does feel like a niche service, like closed captioning or I don't know. It feels like a service you do for people who can't afford bandwidth.
Then Netflix earnings came out November of 2011. And their revenue was fine because they had screwed all this up in September, so that didn't quite impact the revenue, but the subscription numbers were falling. And not only that, the Go-Go Days meant the Go-Go Days ending for Netflix meant that it had stopped spending money on acquisitions. Subscriber numbers are falling. The Stars deal is gone. It doesn't look like they're spending money on acquisition. In fact, Brian, the only thing they seem to be spending money on is this mini series called House of Cards that they're going to run next year if they survive that long.
Well, okay, two things. I want to say it was like $100 million commitment at the time for House of Cards, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
That was extraordinary and unheard of. Also, technically before that was Lilyhammer, which was basically something that just ran on Norwegian television that they were all like, yeah, we'll buy that from you, whatever. Yeah. Hey, we have a quote unquote original series now.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a pretty good investment.
Nope. Netflix is done for, folks. Netflix is broken with no fix in sight, analysts say on CNET, November 30th, 2011.
Oh my God. We really have. We're doing the same show over and over. This is purgatory. The show will always be the same.
It's Groundhog Day. Exactly. Its only hope, said Deadline, was a possible sale to Verizon. The shares started soaring again because, hey, Verizon might buy Netflix. That'll save it. They'll infuse it with some money and put it on their phones. Oh, wait. Verizon teamed up with Redbox instead. That Redbox streaming service is probably going to kill Netflix.
Was it Go90? Is that what became
No,
Go90?
Redbox was its own streaming service.
Yeah,
Redbox Streaming.
Redbox Streaming was a Verizon co-produced thing.
And so-
Go90 was a separate streaming service that they put on their phones later.
And later, yeah.
Wow. And then I believe back at this time period, we were fussing about whether or not it was constitutional or right for them to, what'd you say, zero something?
Zero rate.
Zero rate.
Zero rating,
for
yeah.
bandwidth caps.
No, that one's still kicking around too.
Yeah?
Yeah, people still complain about that.
How feisty are they on it?
Pretty feisty in Europe. Yeah,
Okay.
especially. And India, as a matter of fact. Well, Amazon was going to obliterate Netflix anyway, because the rumors were back then that Amazon was going to break out its streaming service. Right now, you got some streaming with your Amazon Prime subscription, but looks like Amazon might just create a Netflix competitor, and they're gonna bring them down.
Can I kind of think my opinion is unchanged, even 8 years later. It's really weird that free delivery is bundled with a top tier original content creation service.
And what's funny
That's
is
a really weird thing.
I read this story and I'm like, but the streaming service was there. Breaking it out was just another way of charging, which they eventually did.
Sure.
And hasn't really caused waves. Some people do it, but it hasn't hurt their numbers or really it is a weird thing. It's still a weird thing. They did the thing that this article talked about, and it really didn't change anything.
Yeah, it's and again, clearly it's not wrong. I mean, they're the most valuable company on the planet or whatever, but it is weird.
It is.
It's
It is.
very weird.
Now, the other thing that's weird is at the time in October, in the midst of all of this that we're talking about, Netflix started to become popular for watching television shows. This is a movie service, Brian, but more than half of Netflix streams were about TV shows. Well, that's weird.
Well, and keep in mind that does make sense, because if you're going to binge a television show, almost inherently you're looking at dozens, if not hundreds of episodes, dozens, if not hundreds of hours, versus just 2 hours for movies. But also, this was that cultural gestalt moment as we were all gearing up for the end of Breaking Bad. Most people did not watch it live as it came out on AMC. Instead, they just knew, oh, this is the thing you have to get caught up on. This is the beginning of binge culture at this moment.
Yeah. And the perspective I want to give to all these is every one of these predictions of Netflix's demise looked at what was happening that day,
Right.
and didn't look at potential trends. And what Netflix was seeing inside was people are definitely picking up our streaming service faster than they're picking up our DVD service. We need to separate those. That was the right move. They bungled the messaging on it, but it was the right move. There was also, people are doing TV shows more than they're doing movies. It doesn't matter if we lose stars, because we're going to get more TV deals, and we're going to start making our own TV shows, and that will be content that we won't ever lose. And I remember at the time that the House of Cards thing was signed, I'd be like, this is, if they can pull this off, it's the most genius thing yet, because what you want to do is transfer people from thinking of you as a place to watch other people's content to thinking of you as a place that has premium self-made content.
Keep in mind also, we were talking about looking forward to that Steve Jobs moment, because you and I, it was close enough at the time, 2001 was when they announced the iPod and so on. That was a time that piracy was rampant and the music industry had its back up against the wall, and in walks Steve Jobs, says, shut up, everybody calm down, 99 cents a track, $10 an album, get in line. And everybody did. And the pain point for video never got quite so far that any one person was able to swoop in and pull that Steve Jobs moment.
Well, and also TV was prepared because they'd seen the music industry have to do it despite their better judgment.
Correct.
Because they didn't want to do it, but they realized they had to. So TV was trying everything to not get themselves in that same predicament.
And they successfully pulled it off. Instead, they balkanized and they made all of these silos where everybody, more creators own their content. But during that time, there was all of those ridiculous entanglements with Byzantine agreements about who could stream what, where, and all that stuff. So I don't know. It makes sense at that time that that's how it would go.
All right, let's switch to Hulu. There's some interesting things about Hulu. First of all, do you remember Hulu was the free service?
Yep.
Hulu Plus was the one you paid for and had the apps on Roku. And we had so many stories of Hulu Plus has come to the Apple TV. Hulu Plus has come to the Roku.
I do not remember those marketing distinctions. I do remember that in general around this time, just across the board, you were not a fan of Hulu.
Oh, yeah. No, I was the guy like, why would I pay for Hulu Plus when I can watch everything on my laptop on Hulu for free? It's unconscionable that they want to make me pay for a service just to watch it on a Roku. I'll plug my laptop into the TV and watch it just fine. By goodness, I will have my Hulu Plus subscription on pause until they give me a gosh darn reason to pay for it.
And this was
And then I eventually had to pay for it.
Yeah. This was a pre-Spotify world. We were not, and they did not have an ad-free option. And of course, I think we all would have jumped on if it was ad-free.
Yeah,
at the time.
They didn't add that till later. You're
Correct,
right.
yeah.
They just slowly whittled down the free ad-supported version and made it more compelling by putting things like Saturday Night Live is the one that got me to first break my subscription pause because they had the entire back catalog and I wanted to watch some of those old episodes.
Wasn't it Yahoo that had the whole back
They
catalog
had
for
clips.
20 minutes?
They had clips of Saturday Night Live. In fact, Jenny Josephson, original producer of Daily Tech News Show, her job at Yahoo was organizing the metadata around
No
those
kidding.
clips. Yeah. Did you forget there is a Hulu in Japan? We always talk about Hulu as being only U.S.
I mean, I vaguely remember an announcement. Is it still here? Is it still a thing?
Bryce dug this up. It's owned by Nippon TV. There might be a minority stake from Hulu itself, but they have the license to use the brand and the tech. And in fact, if you go to hulu.jp, it takes you to what? Happy On?
Happy on.
Happy On. So the URL isn't even Hulu, but the branding is Hulu. It still says Hulu, and it's got a bunch of Japanese broadcaster stuff there.
Hulu is Japanese for happy on.
Yeah.
One for Nippon TV, this is their streaming service because they can put their original programming into this system.
You know, that does make sense because there's a lot of brands that mean one thing in one country and then just something totally different elsewhere. You know, even Nintendo here in America, it's never meant anything other than a video game console. But Nintendo was the U.S. playing card company of Japan, basically.
Hulu even tried to go to Europe, but they got laughed out of the negotiations because they wanted a cut of the ad sales. and Hulu, all the European broadcasters were like, no, we own ad sales. You can buy our shows and put them on your service. We'll figure something out there, but we're not going to give you a cut of the ad sales.
How is Hulu doing now in Europe? Is it?
It doesn't exist anywhere. It basically retrenched into the United States. In fact, what it did after this all failed was it started to try to sell itself. Remember, for a year or two, there was who's going to buy Hulu. Hulu was out there marketing like, yeah, us three broadcasters that own it, we want to sell it to somebody. And at one point, Yahoo was going to buy Hulu. That was going to be the big thing that would say we had Yahoo as one of our headlines, I think.
Yeah, the oh, doggone it. I had a thought, but I was holding off to be polite. Now I've forgotten it. I'm old now. It'll come back.
Hulu,
Yeah.
Hulu in Europe.
No, those
are the stories.
Those are fun to say.
Hulu's out. So really, the Hulu has been in a holding pattern of really we want to sell it so somebody can change it. We want to expand internationally, but we can't.
This is what I wanted to say. Longtime viewers, of course, heard this for forever, but I wonder how many people even remember that very clearly Hulu was built to fail from the moment it got started. It was built to be a thumb-nosing, eye-rolling answer to YouTube because the statement of all the broadcast networks is YouTube is crushing us. They are pirating everything. If there was a competitor, or their position was YouTube should not exist because everything is pirated. There's not even an alternative. And then somebody's like, well, why don't you make an alternative? They're like, okay, fine, we'll make an alternative. And they made Hulu, which is the word for the plumage on a peacock because NBC was a primary investor. And then they did it, and much to their chagrin, they got Springtime for Hitler. It started to work.
But also at the time, it was replacing all of the channels having their own online just web page with shows and trying to sell ads on each channel.
It did.
Right?
It was
unifying
together,
some of that stuff. Yeah.
But the main point was to say YouTube only exists because people watch pirated versions of our shows. We'll give them a better version of that and run YouTube out of business. What they didn't understand was that isn't what YouTube was best at, and YouTube is what YouTube is best at, and we see what that is, and it's got its own problems. But Hulu didn't run YouTube out of business. Hulu provided people a thing they were like, oh, this is really good. Yeah, we should watch this because all the shows are there.
It was as though their initial statement was, look, it's so obvious that YouTube is cheating because if anybody tried to do it legitimately, it would fail miserably. Watch. Here, we're going to jump over Snake Canyon.
Hold my television contract.
Watch us fail miserably. Like, oh, do we make it? Oh, hey, maybe there's something to it. Well, let's drag our feet for 5 more years and end up in 3rd place.
All right, well, let's get to HBO. HBO co-president Eric Kessler told a gathering of industry boffins this morning, according to this story, in New York, that there is no chance his company will make shows like True Blood or The Wire available to digital non-subscribers.
This is a
Kessler is undaunted, saying HBO regards cord cutting as a temporary phenomenon that will go away once the larger economy improves. 2 years later, Eric Kessler went away. On October 2013, HBO Now launched October 15th, 2014, 1 year later.
I think we knew, even at the time, that all of that was bluff and bluster. I think we knew that HBO derived a significant notoriety from being the most pirated content online, and the only way to be the most pirated content online, which, by the way, is just a backhanded compliment saying your stuff is very popular and everybody loves it. The only way to get that was to not have a legitimate way to get that in your hands. So I think they intentionally held off as long as they could, towing the company line that, no, this will never happen. And then quietly they knew.
I at the time was saying they have to say this.
Right.
They know it's not true, but they have to say it because they need to calm down all their cable TV partners. I do think there is no coincidence that Kessler leaves and a year later we launch HBO Now. I think that's Plepler taking over the reins and saying, listen, Eric, you were great at maintaining those relationships. I think we can be a little riskier, and we're going to go do it.
But HBO Go launched before HBO Now.
Go was fine. The cable companies didn't mind HBO Go because you had to authenticate with the cable.
Yeah. Although it was really weird that time. I don't know if they've since rectified it, but HBO Go used the MLB back end, whereas HBO Now, they used a different one.
No, backwards.
Opposite.
But the mere fact that you were attaching to a different set of servers based on one service over the other was very, and you could feel the difference. It's like it definitely impacted everything from the closed captioning to the quality of the stream.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm happy with HBO Now. Now. but man, HBO Go was some hot garbage.
All right. This is what I found that I found really interesting in diving back to these old articles. Did you know that Hulu arguably beat Netflix to original programming?
I don't even know that it's arguable because all Netflix did was buy the existing back catalog of Lilyhammer. So if Hulu had literally anything
Well, it
first,
wasn't an existing back. It was a new show. What was different about Lilyhammer is it wasn't buying a back catalog like it usually did. It was a show that was airing in Norway, and they were putting it on Netflix at the same time and saying it's a co-production. It airs in Norway on NHK, or NHK is Japanese. It airs in Norway on that station, and it airs in Netflix at the same time.
Right, but they did secure the ability to say Netflix exclusive. They're like, oh, I swear it was supposed to be here on time.
The reason we're talking about this is Lilyhammer launched on Netflix February 6th. Battleground launched on Hulu February 14th, a Hulu original.
Battleground?
February 6, 2012 was Lilyhammer. February 14th, 2012 was Battleground.
Battleground was like a fictional election series.
It was a Wisconsin politician running for president, but he was like third in the race, so it wasn't much chance that he was going to win.
Almost like a Veep sort of style.
Yeah.
That's wild because history will never remember that.
Those
crazy.
were both in 2012. House of Cards launched February 1st, 2013. We also covered on October 10th, 2011, the launch of Ultraviolet, a digital locker that lets you buy once, play anywhere. And shedding light on our conversation about the closing of Ultraviolet a couple weeks back,
right?
This article is written entirely as Ultraviolet lets you buy a Blu-ray and then store it and play it anywhere.
Eventually.
That is the thing, right? Though there are some services that are streaming only that you can do this too.
Yeah,
and the people most upset at the closing of Ultraviolet seem to be the people who are like, hey, I have Blu-rays, that I stored these in, and I'm mad that you told me I'd be able to store and play them everywhere, and now you're going away.
And we deconstructed a lot of the responses that we got by email, but my favorite of all the analogies was somebody said, "Look, yes, you're right. That we could play it anywhere that we could currently play it, but the dream we were buying into was imagine a building being built. We had all the keys to the first 7 levels, and yes, we still have the keys to the first 7 levels, but this building is going to have 75 more stories, and we'll never get to access any of those."
Yeah. Also, did you know that Blu-ray is struggling?
You're talking about a this week story,
not
some old one.
No,
right?
this is June 10th, 2011. Blu-ray still struggling.
Now, was it struggling like against HD DVD or
No.
against streaming?
No,
or
it had already beat HD DVD. It only had 15% penetration, even though it had launched in June of 2006.
This would have been back when I was banging the drum of convenience versus fidelity. And I was talking about how, like, yes, it's definitely the superior format, but you know what's not great is sitting through that dumb FBI warning, waiting for the thing to spin up.
It's all about expectations. Everyone was saying, look, you compare these Blu-ray numbers to DVD. When DVD turned 5 in 2002, DVD players were in 35% of U.S. households. It's just not doing what DVD did.
Well, exactly.
And
DVD was much more convenient than VHS. Blu-ray was not much more convenient.
Well, and also streaming was starting to be more convenient.
Correct.
My theory was no one will win the format war, even if Blu-ray wins the format war, because streaming will be around. But what I didn't expect is that Blu-ray would still be here in 2019.
Yeah, I guess that is.
And it's not just like a niche thing. Like, you can go into stores and buy Blu-rays. There's enough people, even though it's not as large as DVDs were, there's enough people that they still make them. They still put them out.
Is it still the fact that most movie theaters are equipped with only 2K projectors, and so essentially you're getting Blu-ray?
I don't know if that's true
quality?
or not.
Yeah.
But at the end of this article from Harry McCracken, that was originally published on Technologizer, he says, maybe there's still a window for Blu-ray to do okay.
Sure.
Good job, Harry. You called it. They did. Smart TVs were taking off.
Man, I was bearish on smart TVs at the time. I really felt like they were all underpowered. I said, everybody has a game console. Game console has the muscle and the hardware. Game console is going to keep everything looking butter smooth and beautiful. That's what it takes. And I was wrong.
You and Christina Bonington, who wrote this September 8th article on Wired, smart TV space may never take off as predicted.
But at the time, though, it seemed insane to be able to put enough processing power inside a television and have it be cost effective, especially the idea that, and I think we talked about it at the time, is that the replacement cycles for television, you're looking at 5 to 7 years compared to a game console every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, my take on this was always, you'll get a smart TV because they'll all be smart.
Correct.
It was also my same take on 3D, which ended up failing. Because
but you were right about
even though
everybody
most
had...
TVs had 3D for a while, they ended up taking it out because nobody was using it. Whereas smart TVs, the usage has gone up and up and up because people like, oh, it's already in the one remote that I have.
Yep.
And the upgrade cycle for watching streaming television is not as rough as the upgrade cycle for a smartphone that has to do millions of other things.
That has been maybe one of the biggest, most astonishing plays I've seen in the last 9 years is Roku's very deft, very sly maneuvering in the smart TV market, where it's like they've made themselves the de facto standard, and their OS is the smart television platform of choice.
All right, before we wrap up this trip down memory lane, I've got just a couple more I want to throw out here. Did you know Dish is in talks to start an internet TV service?
I swear to God, I don't know if this is a this week or 9 years ago headline.
November 8th, 2011, Dish Network has approached several media companies about the possibility of licensing their TV channels for a pay TV service to be delivered over the internet. It would go on to be called Sling TV.
Wasn't this back in the days when we thought the digital Hopper package was the biggest news?
It was big news. Yeah, it was big news at Dish. And the fact that they got disqualified because CBS owned CNET, wanted to give them a best of CES, and then CBS said, no, we're suing them for patent violations.
Oh, they actually did award it, and then they took the award away.
The award was determined, and then CBS was like, no, you can't do that. And then CBS, finally, CNET lost the Best of CES awards.
Which is such a bummer because, like, there's no clearer way to say these awards are neither fair nor unbiased.
Listen, I worked for Tech TV when they did Best of CES. I worked for CNET when they did Best of CES. But when they gave it to Engadget, I was like, I can't keep following it around. So I didn't go work for Engadget.
Oh, okay.
Is the end of that.
I get it now.
By the summer of 2012, the majority of televisions that you see in stores will have Google TV embedded in them. So said Eric Schmidt of Google.
Wait,
He
that was a
wrong.
1-year prediction?
In December of 2011, he said, by next summer, all the majority of TVs you see on the shelves are going to have this Google TV thing in them.
And this is before, I almost would believe that if it was viewed through the lens of the Chromecast, because that's such an
This
affordably...
is before the Chromecast.
I know, right? That's the part
Yeah.
that breaks me. This is back when it was like a $200 plus piece of hardware running on Android. Wow. They changed the name like a million times, too.
Yeah, no kidding. It was Android TV after that. And yeah.
It was Google Home at one point.
Google Home, right?
Yeah.
Right. 7 years ago, analysts were arguing against the 90-day theater exclusive window.
Well, thank goodness they resolved that, right?
A quote from Greenfield says, "The reality is most people who are planning to go out to the movies would still go."
Yeah, I still think that's right. I don't know. I'm where are you at right now on windowing? We haven't argued about this in a long time.
I still think day and date releases will not undermine the I agree with Greenfield from 2011 or 2012. I don't think it will undermine the market enough to make that much of a difference. It might spark more movie going. As we've seen, a lot of people wanted to see Roma on the big screen because they sampled it on Netflix, and I don't know if that's enough to save theaters, but I don't think theaters are going to stay in business with the 90-day window.
Right.
Or without it.
So
the problems aren't the 90-day window.
I can't speak to the financial side of things, but I definitely can speak to the artistic side of things. We have seen no decrease in quality. It is a flight to quality, the likes of which we've never seen before, and that's thanks to all of the streaming opportunities that people have.
And then the last thing is 2012 was the first ever Super Bowl live stream.
This is, if I remember correctly, we were grousing about the fact that all the online ads, it was like the same ad over and over again.
Yeah, they
would
didn't
run
show
it
the
6
Super Bowl
times in a
ads.
row.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what's the point?
They fixed that, I think, the very next year.
Yeah.
But that was the big complaint. So there you go. It's cool perspective to look back on not only some of the news items that are the same, but some of the processes of critiquing announcements haven't changed, and people still predict demises that may not be demises, and some of the stuff that just isn't even a problem anymore.
I wonder how much of it is just an artifact of any kind of news reporting. You have a random noise generator of actual news, and then you have to have a take, and so you know that what generates either newspaper sales or people to tune in at 11 or people to click is to predict dire consequences.
Yeah.
So,
and I think there's something on the analyst side of that too, where the folks want to give the good money for the analyst report that tells them what they think is true.
right.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay for the analyst that tells me Netflix is a good buy right now because it's not. Look at them.
Right.
But the analyst who's like, here's why they're doomed. Like, yes, give me that.
Everybody wants to hear somebody shout, even a blind man could see.
Yeah, except for the blind man who's like, that's just not funny.
Yeah,
Will you
well,
stop that?
I mean, unless secretly he's blind and the one saying it. I'm describing the plot of Black House by Stephen King.
Spoiler.
It's like a first chapter spoiler, but I knew you'd read it.
That's great. Well, any thoughts now that we've traveled down memory lane?
Number one, we need OpenAI to just massage a few of the names, and we could just run old episodes forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
Because apparently very little changes.
Little find and replace here and there, and we'd be good. Yeah.
But it is fun to go back and figure out which things our gut instincts were correct about and which we were way far off on.
The one I'm most proud about was taking the position that Netflix was going to be fine and that original content would save it. Because those have both proved to be true.
However, we should acknowledge that there's probably a decent chance that there's benefit of hindsight bias on that, because we only...
I was saying that. I was saying that at the moment.
You did, and it happened to be right. But
I see. Yeah.
Let us acknowledge it was a big gamble for them to take. And they happened to secure the right talent.
No,
and it very much could have gone a different way just by pure luck.
I'm not going to bring up how wrong I was about Hulu, Brian. I'm going to bring up how right I was about Netflix. Come on.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Same page. We're on the same page.
All right, folks. Well, we pre-recorded this episode for those of you who are getting it on Monday because we were going to be in the same room together and we wanted to take advantage of that, and I'm going to be traveling on Monday. So I hope you enjoyed this. It was fun for us. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/nightattack, which is also carried on diamondclub.tv, usually on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, next time you hear from us, hopefully we'll have opinions about Captain Marvel, because we're about to go see that.
Yes, indeed.
Hey guys, Brian and Tom here, and it's just the same old message at the end of the credits, just like always.
That's right, Brian. Nothing new here except your name showing up.
Oh my gosh,
because
I've got a
you
name.
just supported us on Patreon.
Yeah, all those $5 donors, look at that. That's your name in pixels. We're gonna make you famous, kid. Put your
There's
name in
some
pixels on
classic
the internet.
names in there, but some of you are new. Some of you aren't there. It's sad. What can they do, Brian?
I mean, they could go to patreon.com/Cordkillers and pledge $5 an episode and be one of these amazing people, like this one.
Amazing.
Oh, look at that name right there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.